Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's Friday Forum. My name is Cindy McDonald, and I am the producer and the originator of these Friday Forums. I love being able to talk to experts in areas that mean the most to you. We try to cover topics in education and in business because as entrepreneurs, we wear both those hats. And I'm so pleased to be able to welcome today as our guest, somebody who I've known for many years and is a marketing guru. He's a business guru. He's a finance guru, and he's also an attorney. And I don't know if you'll tell Peter, will you say you're a recovering attorney or
Oh, yes.
Oh,
No.
yes.
Yes.
I've heard that term once or twice.
Mhm.
So let Peter know who you are and where you're located as you come in. Use the chat to let us know. And we're just so glad to have you and glad to have you here on this Friday. I know it's just a few days before the November 1 deadline. If your students are like mine, they're still finishing essays and all those wonderful things. So as you log in, go ahead and put your name and your location into the chat. And then I'm also going to ask you one more question is how long is your first inquiry call? When you meet with clients, what is the length of the session that you have? Is it a 10-minute call? Is it a 15-minute call when they first contact you? Or is it a call at all? Maybe it's just a form through your website or your calendar. So those are some of the things we're going to talk about today. Peter has been, he's a CPA, he's a tax attorney, you're an author. He's been doing this for over 20 years, and his approach has been to help families find great fit college, maximize forms of free gift aid. So you're right in league with Ron Lieber, many other people who are focused on that, scholarships, grants, tuition reductions, and with a focus on helping families preserve their retirement. And Peter, you talk about how you want to demystify an American rite of passage. And so I'm sure you'll be able to tell us a little bit more about that. So welcome, Peter. I'm glad to have you here with me today.
Well, Cindy, thank you very much. I've always enjoyed your Friday forums. If I'm not on every time, I'm definitely I see the replay all the time. So it was an honor that you actually asked me. So I appreciate it. Cool. Can I jump into a little bit about me and then get into what's this? Okay, let me see if I can do some technology here.
Okay. And you can see we've got people here from San Francisco.
Yeah.
We've got a good friend. I see Al has joined us, and good to see Johnny, people from all over, and Heidi from Atlanta, Georgia. So you can see we're pretty well covered. I love seeing the amount of time that people are using in their inquiry calls. Oh, we have Kara from Madrid, Spain.
Wow.
So tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I'm just going to keep it on this simple one. Yes, kind of as in marketing, you might call it a hero story. My hero story is I didn't have any money for undergraduate. I got accepted to an Ivy League school and no money. So I ended up going to my big state, U. Now, today, you guys would say, everybody in IEC land would say that the University of Virginia is a really great school, and it is, except I was lost in it. So I joined ROTC, luckily, and it paid my way through undergraduate at UVA. So at age 18, I had to sign a contract that basically said I was indentured somehow to the U.S. military for 10 years. A little hard to stomach at age 18, but I got through undergraduate, and then I went on active duty for 4 years and came back, had the GI Bill, and I love being a student. So they gave me 4 years in graduate school. I did an MBA, JD, CPA, and I throw me in the briar patch. I'd be happy to be a student again. And through that process, kind of that became a holistic planner of multiple professions. That's what I enjoy. And I had some clients that pushed me into this stuff called the FAFSA form. And that just led into the whole multidiscipline of the college planning. And then, as most of us, you come through and you have kids. And I decided that from my family, they weren't going to go to Big State U. And I was going to practice on me what I was doing at the time for my college planning clients. And you're going to start with 3,000 good schools. And I'm really looking at the colleges that change lives and small liberal art colleges. And so this right here is my daughter's graduation at Elon in North Carolina. And my other daughter on the far left side went to Ursinus outside of Philadelphia. And my son went to a slightly bigger school, but SMU in Dallas, Texas. So we started with 3,000 and did fits. We were really into fits. And that's exactly what I preach for my clients. But this is my typical family right here. This is who I want to talk to. This is my avatar in essence. And this is who I reach out to. So and I think the emotion around this is really important that I know and that we know. You've got those kids, and what do we as parents want for our children? And then the other side, on that right side, you'll see a younger version of me. I stress that we want to make parents the heroes of this story. What do they want? How do they want to feel through this process? And at the end, in 5, 6, 8 years from now, how do they want to feel? In the middle is my dad, their granddad, and he was super pleased, of course. So I think it's important that you zero in on who you want and why. So does that make sense? Do you want to stop with that for a second?
Yeah, no, I think that's really important as well, because it gives the families we work with something to relate to. And so I love how you talk about it as a hero story. But I do want to mention that we're seeing all your slides. You're not in presentation mode.
Yeah, I know. That's for me, because I'm not the best technician with these multiple windows and stuff like that. So
all right.
It's the KISS.
It works just fine.
KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid, and that's me, stupid. So let me just highlight a couple of quick concepts, and then I'll show a little bit about how it plays out for me. But so I like this model that our clients, our prospects in marketing mode, our potential prospects, they're on a trip, and they're starting with what I would call Hell Island, and they're on a trip to Heaven Island, and in between is this boat, and you and I are the captains of this boat, and we're going to get them basically from the Hell Island to the Heaven Island. So, but this is a journey that's really based on emotion throughout this process. Your boat might be logical, and I'm going to tell you about my boat in a little bit. And now sometimes it's too logical, but so think about this as kind of a metaphor. They're coming from a place of, in essence, pain, concerns, challenges. I'm more of a finance guy. So, you talk about 4 years of undergraduate, at least $30,000 a year, and prefer maybe up to $60,000 per year. That's kind of hellish right there. And the lost opportunity to their retirement. That's why I do this along with retirement. But also, what schools do they want to go to? Why? What's the match? And I'm going to share with you in a little bit, when I surveyed my market, what language they put to their Hell Island. Now, let me pause for a second. That's important. It's not what we think all the time. What's really important is to get For the marketing, what their language is. In the first appointment, however you do your appointments, what their language is, what their concerns are, not to be projecting ourselves. And that's actually where the 80-20 of this comes in.
Yeah.
And I'm going to emphasize that again a little bit later. And for someone like me, as Cindy knows me, I consider myself a friendly financial nerd. Okay. I'd love to tell you everything on that I know. And you got to stop that. You got to talk 20% and let them talk 80%. So, and then you go to the Heaven Island. Think forward. This is called in marketing future pacing. So if you have a family with a junior in your office or in the Zoom meeting, how do you want this to look like, we'll say 6/7 years from now? And not just intellectually, but tell me, where are you? What's happening with your son or daughter now? Where they're going to go? What's graduation look like? Things like that. And paint a picture along the way. Let them paint a picture. Help them do that. Does that make sense, Cindy? Okay.
It does. I wanted to mention that in our survey that Katie and I did last year, we asked people what they put in their, inquiry calls or their first session. And so often we are in that talking mode and telling everybody what we have to offer. And you're telling us that we need to listen and hear what their pain points are first, right?
Exactly. And this is a guy that I was explaining to Cindy earlier on going onto the internet. I'm failing forward in my new business venture. In that, it took me years. I failed forward to finally understand that meeting's really not about my boat, how I'm going to get you from one island to another. It's about them and what do they want. How can we tell them about our services, our boat, how we're going to do this if we don't know the 2 points, where we're starting from, where we're going to go with them. So again, our services is the boat, but it comes a little bit later. So and that's the problem. That's what we do so many times. We don't talk about the Hell Island and the Heaven Island and their emotions. It's all about us. This is what we do. If you look at everybody's web pages, including mine, I'm in the process of updating. It's all about this is how great we are, and this is what we do. And no, they really needs to be about our avatar, our clients and their emotions, even on the websites. But in that first meeting in particular, everybody tells us to talk about features and benefits in marketing. Okay. Well, there's a place for that. Not yet.
Right.
So, and if you can see this, my college bound experience model on the right, I figured this out. I'm a nerd. So we're going to figure this out, and how are we going to do this? And so in my world, there's 18 areas that we all, IECs, financial guys, affordability people, we need to somehow help our families with. And that's great for me. And eventually that's great to discuss with the client. Cindy, I think the first time you saw this, or I talked about this, you might have had or told me that in this industry, we'll have a deer in headlights experience or an eyes glazed over experience because it's a lot. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I led with this, and guess what? My close rates weren't that great. Okay. I'm impressing myself, but am I helping the client or the prospect learn something and get from Hell Island to Heaven Island yet? No, because they didn't know that I knew them.
Right.
So again, you come back to who do you want to talk to? Who do you want to be in your office and or on the Zoom meetings? And you don't upfront talk about, for me, 18 areas, 72 steps, 7 formulas, you know. So is your head spinning yet when I say that? It probably
Yeah.
is, right?
I just want to help my child.
That's exactly right. So that young lady in the middle, how are we going to get her there?
Mhm.
Well, tell me about her. Okay. Tell me about you and helping her. So, um, so in my world, this comes down to ask and listen, 80-20. And that's that you're going to be talking 20% and listening 80% of this, especially in that first meeting. So, what I typically do is we start with where are you? Okay. Why are you here? Where are you? What are your concerns? What are your problems? What's that mean? Pull, let that pull that onion back. And what's that meaning to you? And what if that stays that way, what's going to happen in your life? And it's somewhat painful occasionally. Back when I had a full office, in-person office in the Washington, D.C. area, I literally would have moms every maybe second or third appointment start crying because I was the only person asking the question and giving them the space to express themselves. And then, okay, got it. So let's think about best case scenario now. And as a finance guy, I always start with, okay, money's not an issue. Now tell me what that heaven island looks like. Okay? What's it doing for your son or daughter? How does that make you feel as a parent? And again, it's all emotion. We're trying to get the emotion out. And in the third piece here, again, it's emotionally, what have you done now to move from in essence, in our terminology here, from the hell island to the heaven island? And what are you doing now? Is it working? How do you feel about that? The guidance from the guidance counselor, the confusion, the whatever, the money now, or your financial planner, and whatever. Is it working? And what's going to happen? And how do you feel about that if it doesn't work out? Just getting as clear on that as I can. So, does that make
Well, I
sense?
think
Yeah.
that's an important aspect too that I hadn't really thought about, Peter, is
Yeah.
not only just hearing why they're on Hell Island, what their pain points are, what's motivating them to come see you, but also asking, well, what have you done? That's often the part that we don't think about in those conversations as well. It might come out, just as a part of the overall conversation, but to do it from a conscientious part of our directing the conversation to find out where they're at and what their status is.
Absolutely, Cindy. And it's not just to understand them, but kind of strategic. Maybe they're doing it okay.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you have no reason to be selling your services, quite frankly. And you need to know that, because if you try to sell something they don't need, they're either going to say no and you're going to spend more time, or, a couple of weeks, a couple of months down the road, they're going to say, oh, I can do this, and I'm going to fire you. And secondly is of the opportunity to separate yourself from the other advisors they have. So maybe they're fat, dumb, and happy, and their local guidance counselor is doing a great job. You kind of need to know that, whether you can separate yourself, if you can add some services or not, or in my case, financial planners. So you kind of need to know what's working, what's not in their world. Not my world, in their world. So.
Right. In terms of their school and the team that they have at school, understanding kind of what their perception is
Mhm.
and understanding what resources are not available there.
Mhm.
But I know as an IC, I always try to emphasize that I'm not replacing those people,
Mhm.
that I'm part of their team. And
Mhm.
it's like bringing on a vocal coach or a batting coach or something. Those other people are still really important,
Mhm.
and you want to build relationships with them,
Mhm.
but that I'm here to help supplement that. So, having that part of the narrative for the families.
Absolutely. To reinforce that real quick, I position myself um, as a macro manager, and you have multiple people on your team, or we're going to put people on your team. I'm not the only person that has expertise on everything. It takes a team in this process. I'm really adamant about that. And then through this process, you got to keep in your mind who you're talking to. Okay, people show up differently. The way they communicate is different. This is something I use in my marketing and in back of my mind. Cindy has um, introduced me to another model that's even bigger and broader than this, and we'll show the book here at the end. But for me, as an example, if you want to talk my language, I'm a Myers-Briggs INTJ. So I lead with number 2, methodical. I am Mr. Methodical. Okay. Right, Cindy?
Yes, you
And,
are. You are
but
definitely.
that's right. That's right. But I flip very quickly, and I can flip very quickly to the humanistic. And for me, it plays out well. I can have emotional conversations with people. At one time back in the military, I actually did a master's in education and in human services to be a counselor, because I thought, well, I don't know if you know that, Cindy. So I
Did
was,
not.
yeah, as long as the Army was going to pay for it somehow, I'll take advantage of it. And so, because I thought I might go down that road. So that's me. You want to talk to me? You want to sell to me? You want to communicate to me in the future? Those two things are going on. Okay. And so in that perfect family, in my avatar, guess who tends to show up well for me? Engineers, CPAs, attorneys. I speak their language naturally. But when I give space for that mom to show up or an emotional person to show up, and sometimes it's the student
Mhm.
to be emotional, um, then I flip. So that's me. But everybody has their own methodology, and you have to be aware of what you are and who you're talking to. So,
Mhm. Well, I love having this laid out because it does help us to identify that there are different buyers. These are, I look at it as a consumer and the motivation. And, you've often told me, 80% of consumers are motivated 80% by emotion, but then they secure that purchase, 20% logic. And this kind of lays out those different things. And I know several people, many people are on our call today. Some of you can look at these and say, oh, well, these are more of my type of clients, or as you
mhm,
said, Peter, this is how I look at things. Those people up there in the San Francisco Bay Area that work for Google and Facebook
mhm,
and all those places, they're coming from that. Or Seattle. I know a lot of
mhm,
consultants up in the Seattle area, they're working with people who, those engineers are bringing those spreadsheets,
mhm, mhm,
1,000 lines and things like that. So they're coming from that methodical one.
mhm,
But and I love that it shows how you focus that even on your website, FAQs, offers live, testimonials, why all of those components are important for us to include in our prospect's journey. Because I break our journeys down into
mhm,
4 areas: prospect, client, consultant, and organization. And this is
mhm.
part of that prospect's journey. So you have to hit all those buttons together. So,
And absolutely, and even in a follow-up email sequence, uh,
mhm,
guess how many emails we follow up with? 4.
mhm.
And these are the emails, because
Uh-huh.
people relate differently. So,
And now with
um,
AI, you can write those really easily.
yep. A little bit later, I'm going to talk a little bit about a little bit of AI. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. So,
All
um,
right, I'll let you go on.
oh, no, that's okay. Yeah, we can talk forever, but I know. So on this first appointment, what you're trying to do is, in my world, you're just trying to get to these on the emotions behind this. And what you're not trying to do, and I struggle with this, I have to structure how I talk to prospects, and even clients. I want to immediately go to process. Okay. Da, 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 okay. But so I struggle that the first appointment is not to educate them. I know that's heresy. Okay.
Right.
It's not to educate them. There's no dancing. If they start saying, do this for me or do that for me, in my mind, click, that's not a prospect anymore. So I don't educate, I don't dance, and that's hard. That's hard for all of us, quite frankly. And then once you get this and you get real clear that these are your concerns, these are your pains, this is where you want to go, then you ask them, does that sound right? And do I have this right? And you get clarity, and then you make a little mini contract with them. Okay, so in my next appointment, I'm going to, no selling, no education. I'm going to get back with my team, even if you have a team of one, and I'm going to see what we can do. Um, and and you make a mini contract. If I can get you away or eliminate the hell island and get to the heaven island, um, basically, my wording is, what will you do? What do you want to do? And I'm listening. And if they're not telling me I want to move forward as fast as I can, then I don't have a good prospect yet. I don't have a future client. I got to come back and redo this first appointment, or I choose not to, whichever. But does that make sense
Mhm.
so far? Okay,
So
cool.
what you're describing is what we would call an initial consultation,
Yep,
or it might also be part of the inquiry.
yep.
It's like, but when you're doing this first appointment, who all's included in this meeting, Peter?
If I can do it, and I'm more and more insisting to do it this way, it's mom, dad, and student. I've got to have all three. Um, because they all have, in essence, usually slightly different agendas and
Mhm.
slightly different needs and different um, concerns. And sometimes they're at odds with each other. I mean, we don't have enough time, but I'd love to go tell you a couple stories right here. But I have had good, solid families, and I, in essence, at this point, fire them because in one story, dad is really comfortable with this young lady who could maybe squeak into Ivy League, but is a great student for regional privates or small liberal arts schools, and would probably get a 50% tuition reduction or merit or something like that. So we could handle the money, but he wanted to have her live in the basement and go to community college. So I asked 3 times, round robin, and had a conversation, and he was solid all 3 times. Well, unfortunately, at the end of the meeting, the daughter's crying, but he's adamant. He said, "Okay, I can't help you because that's not what I do." And so I don't know what happened, but it's different needs, different times, and you have to bring them together. As we all know, it's like corralling cats sometimes. So,
Mhm.
but
But I think that is important to understand
mhm,
the motivation of each person.
mhm.
And I agree with you, having all three or five or however
Yeah,
many
that's right.
people are involved. I've
That's right.
had
Yeah,
as many
that's right.
as 5 or 6 in that
Yeah.
first meeting, but
Mhm,
in
mhm,
listening and hearing what their concerns are, what makes them feel like, here, I'm here, this is my hell island. Well, here's where I want to go. What does that look like?
mhm,
And
mhm.
so often the student may not even know, like,
That's
I,
right.
I don't know why I'm here. I'm just a sophomore. I'm just a junior. College is, too far away. Or on the opposite end, them already getting so much pressure, they're feeling great anxiety about it. And,
That's
that's something too for us to understand as well.
that's high anxiety.
Mhm.
So, um,
So then what do you do?
well, it's I, I would ask that everybody think like a doctor. The medical have metaphor here. Um, say all of us here, we are rocket scientists. We're brain surgeons. We know our stuff. So we should act that way. So our job is really to begin to diagnose. And in kind of a nice way, uh, our clients, our prospects, they have terminal cancer. They're going to die. So we have to make sure they know they're going to die kind of nicely, but we're going to diagnose and give them the solution to get to where they need to be. That's a medical metaphor. And that's our job here. And that moves you into the second appointment, at least for me. So I'm now going to prescribe. So at the beginning of the appointment, I will go back and say, you told me last time, here are the, here's your pains, concerns, problems of your hell island. This is where you'd like to go for the heaven island. And this is what it looks like and it tastes like. And do I have clarity now and agreement with you guys? Yes. We kind of go around just to say, yeah, that's right. That's right. Or I want to add something, you know? And I go, okay, let's talk about that a little bit more, whatever. Cool. And then I go, okay, here's my prescription. This is how I would get you from here to here. And this is how at my boat, how my services fit in. I'm not going to dump everything I do. So 18 blocks to my model, they told me what they want. I'm going to connect the dots to what they want to leave from and they want to get to. And I'm going to say how portions of my services will get you from there to there. Even if the whole package, it has more. Okay. Maybe they didn't talk about essays. They got that handled. Okay. I'm not going to talk about essays. I think it's very important. But in the future, I'm going to talk about essays, but not right now. Okay. So, and it's a prescription. So, and that's your opportunity to talk about your boat at that point, second time around. So, and your boat is, it's you. Cindy, this is from you, of course. Thanks for letting me use it. But this is a perfect example of I am a different person than Cindy, the you in the middle. And what I bring to bear is different. Okay. And of all the service needs, we all probably have holes. Either we're not going to do that because you've decided to focus on your area of expertise, or if you're more holistic like I am, I have to go team up with people like you to get that done. Okay. Mm-hmm. Because I can't do all this stuff. And I, in many ways, don't want to do it. I do not want to do essays. Absolutely. I do not want to do essays. But I think it's very, very important. So whatever. Does that make sense?
If somebody already knows, like a lot of us, our industry is very referral based. Mm-hmm. So, at some point you build through your brand, you build mm-hmm. up a reputation. And so people come sort of knowing what you do already. How does that change the dialogue or the conversation?
You mean prospects might come? Is that mm-hmm. what you mean? Or okay.
Yeah. So does that change that first conversation or not?
Yes and no. I think it's to a certain degree, no. Why are you here? Well, tell me, what are the problems and concerns you're trying to, deal with? And let's say I'm known as an essay coach. Okay. Then they're coming for essay. Okay. Super. And best case, your island. Okay. Your dream island there, heaven island. What's this mean? And your job now is to take that anxiety that we know happens around essays and get rid of that, diffuse it. And I would just go from there if that's what your area is. You could later talk about other referrals that might be of interest to them, but that's somebody else's boat. It's not necessarily my boat. I'm a finance guy fundamentally. So I don't want to bring people in on essays. It's important. I'm going to handle it, but I'm not going to do it. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
okay.
It does.
And then through this process, just keep who you talking to, and what do they need to know, and how do they need to be communicated to? That's all. So, um, so can I take another couple of minutes and just talk about
Yes.
in practice then? Okay.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
So,
I'm sure people are wondering that all sounds good, but
okay.
how do you really do it? So yes.
Okay. I'll kind of move quickly through this and, stop with any questions or anything you want to. But in practice, get really clear on what your ICA is, your ideal customer avatar. Who are you going to talk to and why? I'm going to talk to, and it can't be anybody that fogs a mirror. Okay. Because if you're talking to everybody, you're talking to nobody. Okay. I know very clearly who I want to talk to. Matter of fact, when they come in my office or have a Zoom meeting, I really know their issues better than they know their issues. I can't dump that, but I can elicit these issues because I know them very well by now. So, and that plays out from marketing to prospecting to servicing, all the way through. I can't overemphasize that. And you're going to see some of the language that my ideal customer avatar tells me. Now, I could spend a couple of days on this slide alone, but so ask and listen. So how do you ask? In just conversations with your prospects and clients, listen, literally record them, transcribe it. Every time there's an emotional statement, highlight it, cut and paste it into another document. Okay. They're talking the emotion, the concerns, where they want to go. Surveys about this really got me focused about 4 or 5 years ago. I just did a cold survey out into Google land and got all kinds of responses back and then sliced and diced them. And you're going to see some of what they told me. Amazon book reviews are phenomenal. Look at the 5 stars, look at the 1 stars and the comments, and cut and paste emotional language out, put it in a document. And you can kind of sort them. That's the public yelling at you, yelling what they want or what they hate right there. You can do that in social media. I don't do that very well. Interviews, you can literally, not just everyday interviews that we talk to, you can, especially some of your better clients, talk to them. When we got started 3 years ago, where were you? Where'd we move to? How'd you feel about that? One of the coolest things that I'm doing more and more is teach a course. And then in the course, from week to week, ask open-ended questions. Mm-hmm. Listen carefully, get their feedback. AI now is really, really good, except that with AI, what you have to do, what I'm finding, I'm going to do a study here and this afternoon, is you got to teach AI. Otherwise, it's garbage in, garbage out. So what do you teach AI? This is my perfect avatar. Okay. This is what I do. I am more of a finance person, but I have to do this other stuff as an IEC type. I do this. Now, okay, what are their concerns? AI will literally tell you, and you look for that. So if you kind of,
AI is particularly poised to do that based on, fine tuning what you put in those prompts, but because it's pulling from so many resources on the internet, it'll pull in those emotions and it'll give you that kind of feedback. I think that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I can talk too much, so feel free to hit me over the head with baseball bats to slow down. But I just went through an AI course, kind of instruction, and I want to build an 8-week course. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to be dumping in AI volumes and volumes of background of my avatar and of what I like to do to solve their problems. And I'm going to say, outline an 8-week course for me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to see what happens.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a great great approach.
Well, let's hope it works. But you know,
It's a good start. It'll give you a good start. It'll give you
that's
a
right.
place to start. I know there's an AI challenge, and we have a colleague who
Oh,
took up that challenge several years ago, wrote a book in 7 days, and I've looked at that too using AI. So, and Mark Kruver, I've
mhm.
had on our show, has talked about AI for the IEC. So, and he's
Cool.
got a course too.
There you go. So, um, okay. So, in my survey, okay, if I start as a CPA, prior recovering CPA, also, if I say I'm used, okay, so I know what that. If you go do an audit for a CPA, you have to have evidence. You can't think this is what I think the financials are of a company. So you need an audit trail. So when I did my survey several years ago, I said, okay, I think I know what everybody needs. I'm Mr. Smart. I'm Mr. Nerd. I've studied this. I've been in this field for, 15 years then, stuff like that. I said to myself, there's no audit trail back to what's in my mind. So I can't use the language in my mind. So it has to come from the market, book reviews, surveys. I'm not authorized to use any statements that I can't go back to the market. And this is what I came up with. Now, I had hundreds of statements, but affording college, this is one of my cool ones. I feel like deer in the headlights, wondering how to even get started considering colleges when I can't afford to pay for them. Now, that that's a chapter in a book right there. Or on your website, are you feeling like a deer in headlights, wondering how to get started when you can't even afford to pay for them? Boom. Okay, you're literally entering the conversation in their mind right then. They will gravitate toward that. Does that make sense,
Mhm.
Cindy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Finding the right college fit. What is the best fit for my child at the most cost-effective price for us as parents? That's the market is asking you that. If you talk best fit now at a cost-effective, in my world, fit and price, boom, I can solve that. That's part of my boat. The college admissions process. How to, again, I'm a finance guy, so I kind of elicited some finance concerns, but you don't have to. How to finance college when you don't qualify for aid, but can't write a $40,000 check and don't want your child graduating with $100,000 or more of debt. That's happening. That's the questions out there. And you can use these and that you build your boat you around that too. So that's the hell island. And the heaven island is the inverse of that with emotion. And then in between, you start building your boat. So my boat, and this comes right from their language, how to find the right college for your child's personal and professional growth, maximizing all forms of financial assistance without sacrificing retirement. So that's my boat because they told me that's the boat they want to be in. And so that's Heaven Island to Hell Island and your boat. And I think, oh, yeah, just some quick resources. Ari Gapler, Unlock the Sales Game. He's all about trust-based selling. Your need to get to their truth and build trust in that first appointment. Okay. And then I'm in Ryan's coaching group, Ask. And guess what it is? Ask and listen. Okay. It's all about that. And then Cindy just recently introduced this to me, and I'm listening to it on my walks up here in Colorado. And it's excellent. Do you want to say a couple words about that, Cindy? Because it's really good.
Oh, I stumbled across this in this concept in a marketing tool. It was actually a lead magnet for a company, and I'd never heard of archetypes. And there are 12 archetypes. The hero and the outlaw are one of those 12. But that goes back to the whole responding to emotion. They're a subconscious, innate response that we have to different types. It's something that's just kind of built into us, and brands build on that. And so we need to understand that and realize what subtype, what archetype that we will be calling to, because that connects to building your own avatar for your perfect client as well. If you think you're telling one thing, but you're actually building your brand someplace else, there's going to be a disconnect and you're not going to be getting the people that you want. So I'm looking forward to learning more. And I do have a marketing person who's going to come in December or in 2024. And I'm hoping to find more people that can share a little bit more about this. But I think it's fascinating. This is the behavioral science part of me, the sociology and the psychology and the anthropology. So yeah, I think it's pretty fascinating.
Well, I'm going to stop the share here and bring it back to you, and then just whatever questions or thoughts or conversations you want to have.
Harmon, go ahead. Do we have some questions?
There are no questions right now. You guys are doing such a great job. Oh, wait. Something just came up. Will you repeat the name of the first sales book and author?
Oh, yeah. It's Unlock the Sales Game by Ari Gap. I'll spell his name. Galper. And he actually talks about in business a one appointment sales close. And he's adamant, if you get to their story and build trust around that, they will sign up with you. One appointment because of that. And no one else is doing it. Everybody else is talking about features and benefits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They don't care.
Yeah.
Really.
So. And that's why I wanted to have this session, is because in our survey, that's, when I asked, well, what do you cover in that either inquiry call or initial consultation, we're very, very heavy based on where's my services, here's my credentials, here's those different things. But we forget to ask about what is the person looking for. We may assume what they're looking for, but we don't know unless we ask. And the reason this became important for me is that, because as somebody in technology, when I went to demonstrate Guided Path, which was my CCA in the beginning, I could go through a list. You have how many steps on yours? I had like over 100. I could go through all these things, but there was no way I had time to cover it all. But it's so exciting because you can do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But I learned to ask people, well, what is your concern? What is it that's top of your list that you want to do with technology? And then I could tailor the presentation, the demonstration based on their needs. And our close rate went, like tripled, because I wasn't worrying about what I wanted to show them. I was finding and focusing on what they wanted to hear. And so when you're working, I've defined it as having that inquiry, whether it's through website or, a phone call or something, and then that initial consultation. And I think in our industry, you can have that one deal closed with just that one consultation. And it won't take you 2 hours to do it either. When you're describing this appointment 1 and appointment 2, how much time are you spending on these, Peter?
I book out an hour for me. I will typically do the first one, we'll say 30 minutes, with the opportunity, if I choose, to go further. Okay. And then the second appointment is much more of a media appointment, and it's at least typically an hour, because I'm beginning to move into not just click here and give me some money, but I'm moving into the initial piece of the providing the service at that point. So
yeah, you're explaining your whole boat and how that applies to that, right?
18 blocks, 72 steps, 7 formulas.
But I think that's, but you are coming from a financial perspective.
right.
You're building a much longer relationship than I would as an IC.
Yes.
And so I think that
Yes.
that is a factor as well. So
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
that can be very key. And we will put in the show notes links. Thanks, Carmen, for sticking the Amazon link in there. But all 3 books we'll pull up. I'll pull up links to those and stick them in the show notes on our website so that goes out. And your presentation has been loaded onto SlideShare, so that'll be available too. So, okay, Carmen, go ahead. Good to see you. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I saw the email and then I realized but just got a flood of questions. So do you recommend starting with student or the parents when you first start asking about pain points? What are your concerns? Why are you here?
Well, I'm going to answer it, then I'll throw it back to Cindy on this. Is I really like to have all 3. Now, what happens is usually this starts with a parent, okay? And be honest with you, especially if I'm doing a in-person webinar or a in-person at a community college and stuff like this, it's usually a mom and a daughter or a son or something like that. Then, especially back in the Washington, D.C. area where everybody's a super brainy nerd on everything, the dad will come in and try to, beat me up a little bit. But I just keep bringing it back. All 3, we have to talk, and I'm watching the faces. Okay. Even if dad has a PhD in finance and is trying to beat me up on finances, and I'll talk him. But then I'm moving right over to the mom and daughter or son. And what's this mean? I need all 3, and I really need, or Cindy, as you said, some of my interesting and most successful is when you have a divorce and you can get both families in at the same time, and there's multiple kids, 2, 2, and 2. That's 6 people in the, but they've all got to be on the same sheet with me, because I know it's going to blow up. It's going to blow up if I don't make that connection up front.
And from an IAC perspective, you really want to make sure, and most of us do require that the student be there. In the inquiry call, like you said, that might be just with one parent. And the goal there is to just make that as short and sweet as possible. Maybe do a little bit of, determining, are they even a prospective client or not? Can they afford it? Is this what they want? And if so, then they make that next appointment. But all 3 people are included, because in the end, as an IC, I want to make sure I get that student committed and that understand what the student's motivation is, because if he or she is not on board, then it's not going to work. It's not going to work for any of us. And my goal in that, and I charge for my initial consultations. Only like 25% of IECs charge for initial consultation. That doesn't mean I'm committed to them. I'm just saying, you're going to pay to come spend time with me. I put in effort, and you're going to put in effort. And I actually have families send in their transcripts, the student's transcript, and any testing that they may have done. And so I have that kind of, as you said, gives you a little bit of information, but I'm directing a lot of the questions, not only to mom or dad, but especially to the student. And as I'm hearing what their concerns are, so basically I turn those 2 meetings into one. So as I'm listening to them, and I was like, well, I really don't know what I'm going to do, my senior year, should I take this AP or not? Well, I can help you with that. Would that be helpful if we look this over and talk about this? Yes, it would. If those parents hear me get an affirmation from the student, at least I try to get at least 4. Usually I get 5 or 6 in an hour meeting that says, yes, this would be really helpful. Yes, I'd really like to do this. I don't have to explain everything that I do. Only, like you said, only the things in the boat that apply to them that they've told me. And if the parents are hearing this, then at the end, it's like, where do I sign? They're not worried about how much it's going to cost them, because they're more concerned about that fact that their child is getting what they need. And so the financial thing is just needs, we'll manage that. I send them a contract. Let's meet in a week and we'll talk about next steps. And so but having listening and gathering affirmation from the students, it is so powerful. Parents respond to that so well. Yeah, that's why, it'll jump your close rate up tremendously.
Oh my God.
When you started doing this, how did your close rate change, Peter?
Oh, I probably tripled it easily. And again, I'm looking for the college side of this, but I'm also looking for long-term clients. So I'm willing to have 2 separate appointments. That's okay with me because of that. But if I don't, even for a long-term financial client, if I don't have the student buy-in, I don't have a long-term financial client. The student buy-in and the commitment and in front of parents is so important.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, there I can see. Go ahead, Carmen, with the next question. I can see that. And then let's wrap up.
So you did talk about this briefly, but can you talk about the idea of charging for the initial session?
This is the way I'm doing it, and I'll tell you where I'm moving to it. But I think Cindy even has better experience on this. What I'm always doing is trying to sift. It's like panning for gold. So I'm looking for the gold clients, my ICAs that are gold clients. So at the beginning, I actually do an application. They have to fill out an application to see me.
I love that. I
Yeah,
think more and more of us are going to be going to that.
And that puts me in the right perspective. I'm a doctor. Okay. I'm a doctor. And so that immediately tells me how committed I can tell with open-ended questions, how emotion and what's happening. I can tell right from that on paper. But so sometimes I decide not to, I take care of them with other resources, but I don't meet with them. And then that sets me up for the first appointment. And again, that first appointment, you can do 2 separate, or you can do what Cindy does, is you can have the 2 inside one meeting. And now I'm moving to taking a deposit for that first appointment. And in the future, this is all a function of how many prospects you have. And then in the future, I will move to that first appointment for a fee. What I'm going to be doing with that is we will be doing some, not just fee, but I will have an outcome for that first appointment, some kind of report. I will give them a hard, deliverable if I charge for that at that point. But see, I'm sifting is what I'm doing every single time.
Yeah. Just seeing where they fall and what the benefits are, where your boat's how it's going to take them from Hell Island to Heaven Island. And I started charging for sessions a long time ago because of the rural area of where I live. I mean, people would drive 20, 30 miles to come see me. I wanted their time to be worth it, but I also wanted my time to be counted as valuable too. So if I charged, they would come. I wouldn't have, as many cancellations or, I can't come today because, Johnny's got this, that, or the other. So by charging, it created more commitment. And I provided deliverable. They would come in, and as part of my questioning, we ended up, and that's why I had them send the transcript and their testing ahead of time, because then they'd walk out with a testing calendar. What tests should you take between now and when you graduate, whether you're a freshman or 8th grader or whether you're a senior? Here's what you should do. And what classes should you take? And especially here in California, we have the whole A to G framework. 90% or more of families don't really know that exists. So I can already show my expertise by just finding out what high school they're from, and then I'll have that available. And we create a 4-year plan based on A to G. And they walk out with those 2 things. I've never had a family unhappy. And, because they feel like they've gotten value. And then they get an opportunity. If I want to work with them, I can continue. If I don't, we can call it good there. And I have done that. But then they come, they see, they get a product, and then they come back. I used to waive that, like put that amount into their, so if you sign a service contract, then that I'll deduct, the cost of the initial consultation. But I realized that was taking money out of my pocket as well. And so then I started scaling that back. I was like, well, I'd take off $100, and now I don't do that. But it gives me flexibility. Like if I do want to give somebody a little bit of a, boost or benefit, or, it's a great referral family, I can say, oh, well, I'll waive this for you, or I'll apply this to your contract. So it puts me in control of that, in situations. So it really increased my close rate and increased, my revenue without having to increase all my service fees. So I have found it to be very, very beneficial. So it's, it's amazing that that's not something that we do in our industry. We're so afraid to do that.
And let me just emphasize, it positions you in a better position. There's a commitment already. You're in that doctor role already, rather than let me dance for you and maybe you'll come, or let me educate you to show you how cool I am. And then, that they're in control. You, in the sales process, you are in control. You got to stay in control, and you do it by these processes. So
by listening, by getting affirmations. So by the time I've done that, gotten affirmations and given them a tangible outcome, then I have a 98% close rate.
Oh, well, that's music to my ears. Can I hire you? That's great.
Well, but granted, though, by the time most people come see me, they do their referrals. They already know they've worked with somebody who's worked with me. So, I didn't have that in the beginning. And, it takes time to get to that level. So we have to go. I literally have to leave and go catch a plane. So thank you, everybody, for being here today. I do want to draw your attention. We're going to do November 10th. Chris Anderson's going to be here, and he's going to be talking about working with students in the performing arts area. So you don't want to miss that. Chris is fantastic. And then we're going to do an open session on December 1st. I'm bringing Sheila Olson, Shannon Bergenon, and Kathy Fine, and we're just going to talk about admission season. Oh my gosh, I sent one email out yesterday and you guys responded so well. I have 80 people already signed up for that. So I think it's be a great discussion. And then our last session in this year of 2023 is going to be Corey C. Miller. And that just opened up yesterday too. She's going to be talking about Generation Z, Fast and Furious, some new research she's done that's going to come out in January. They've got new books, new research that was done during the pandemic. So you're going to be among the first to hear about this. So I'm so excited. I think it's going to be great. Thank you, Peter, for being here today. Thank you, Carmen, for being here today. And thank you all. Please have a great weekend. And I get some sleep, walk the dog, do all those things with self-care with November 1st coming up. Their students are going to survive and we're going to survive too. So see you later. Thank you very much. And goodbye.
Bye. Safe travels.